trip to be made by the Miami Hurricanes, but who will make that trip? We shall see. It is the offseason, and the offseason is humming already around college football. December 4th is the transfer portal launch, but we've got names in the portal already. And of course, National Signing Day just a couple of weeks away. Hurricanes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all being here with myself. And of course, the guy that makes it go for us, Cam Underwood, stateoftheu.com. Cam, how's it going tonight?
What's going on, everybody? I'm back on the ones and twos, you know what I mean? Here for the show. I was going to do a late night TV radio show. I forget the name of the Quiet Storm on V98.7. Yeah. There we go. But no, we're here, happy. I've been energized all week, man. Been going back to the gym a little bit more and everything. So, yeah, man, feeling really good and just got some really good recruiting news. So on that is energizing me as well. I don't know if the chat is talking about it, but if not, we're going to talk about it in a second. But always great to be here. Thanks for popping in on a Wednesday evening, 3 weeks to the day before the early signing day, which matters.
Well, you got me a little bit pumped up because I've got to hit the gym before we get done here. I like to go typically earlier in the day, but I'm going to drag myself outside to do that in the 30-degree weather and get in the car.
Oh, I'm going for a walk after the show. I live next to a park here in Central Fort Lauderdale, so we'll be doing that and be getting some extra steps in. But yeah, I was to the gym earlier.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Recruiting news that I'm completely in the dark about, unaware.
And this actually affects everyone on screen. Breaking news at 7 o'clock. 5-star defensive tackle flips his commitment to the University of Miami by the name of Justin Scott from Chicago, Illinois, flipping away from OSU, the team that Mark is a fan of. And yes, so that literally just came down. That was a guy who has visited before. We talked about this. Miami was in the driver's seat at one point going before the season. Things looked great that he was coming here. Took a couple other visits, committed to OSU. Seemed like it was set and settled science. But apparently Miami has been really doing the work behind the scenes all through this year. Joe Salavea and Jason Taylor and the entire staff leading that charge. And this is a seismic move. This is a top 10 player in America that you flip from, a blue blood team, a top tier program, but you flip him away from there. And this is like almost what Jeremiah Smith had tweeted a couple weeks ago, another OSU commit that like, hey, follow that trend. But, talking about going where you're needed more than where you're wanted. You know what I mean? I think that we need him more than does OSU. And to get that to happen, that is massive. I cannot overstate how huge that is. Justin Scott, I should have had it queued up. I actually had it on my other computer in the front room. But yeah, on 247 Sports, he's number 7 in the country. In the 247 Sports composite, he's 12th in the country. Number 3 D-line in both. Number 1 in the state of Illinois in both rankings. This is an elite player like we talked about before. And he literally minutes ago just flipped to the University of Miami in this class. And look, if you've been following my Twitter, which you should at Underwood Sports, I've been talking about, hey, we took a little step forward on the field this year from 5-7 to 7-5. Is it where we want to be? No. But is it a step forward from where we were? Yes. But I've been tweeting pretty consistently, hey, great, that's good. But Mario, what are we going to do about this 24 recruiting class? Like, I need to see something. You need to do something. See something, done something, massive, massive, massive get. And we just need to keep that rolling.
Yeah, people in the chat are asking about rankings, but this is so fresh that I don't believe any rankings have been updated. I don't see him on the 2024 commitment list, so that may take a little time.
It may take a little bit of time. It is on his individual player page, like I'm looking at. Actually, it is updated on the commitment list page. He is there. That has been linked and associated. The ranking has not changed yet. It was 11 and it stays at 11 because they haven't done the math part of it, but they're in the process of doing the tagging. So they have tagged Justin Scott. Oh, did you get a refresh on there, Mark?
Well, I was just saying, when you said it was on the commitment list, I was like, no, it's not on the commitment list because I just pulled it up like 45 seconds ago, but I refreshed it and yeah, he's at the top of the board. There it is.
Like I was saying it, I had it up on his player page. It has the banner. So I was saying it, and literally as I was saying, I clicked it and I saw it. So yeah, it was in those 45 seconds that transaction was transacted in the back end of the 247 Sports website. But yeah, man. So that, who in the world? Oh, nice. Anyways, yeah, huge get. So I and others have been looking for the movement in this class because the group. So let's go back to 655 or 658. The group was good, but not good enough. We needed to add and upgrade, add players, upgrade certain slots. We needed some home runs. We need some game changers, right? Flip it to 7 o'clock, and hey, we done got another one, right? And he's the first 5-star in this class, slots in at the top. He's above Zaquan Patterson, All-American. Justin Scott's an All-American. He slots in over Zaquan Patterson, over Marquise Lightfoot, over Artavius Jones, another defensive tackle in this class. And this is getting towards, obviously he needs to sign in 3 weeks, but these are the kind of players we need to get. And when you get those players and you play those players, then you get the impact from those players, right? Let's just look right now. Cam Kinchins, 4-star All-American coming out of high school, All-American sophomore year, for second team All-ACC as a junior. James Williams, everybody's All-American, another, All-ACC type player coming in. Ruben Bain, true freshman, ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year named today, right? When you get these guys of this high caliber, you start to see the play on the field. Wesley Besaint stepping into a larger role, right? All these guys, we're starting to see that happen. Francis Mauagoa, the offensive lineman, third team All ACC as a true freshman. You know what I mean? Like, you're starting to see that. So we need guys like that. And the biggest difference between teams that can compete for championships and not, even outside of the blue chip ratio and all those things, athletic, large people close to the football on both lines. That's the thing that separates. That's the thing that Miami has seldom had. I was talking with, I forget who I was talking to. It might have been Marcus Benjamin in the press box from the Rivals website, the Miami Rivals website. You know who's still in the league? John Feliciano. 3-star recruit from Davie Western High School, the same year as Danny Isadora from Cypress Bay, another 3-star who was in the league for almost a decade, right? But when you have big dudes like that, now I hope that Justin Scott comes in, maybe not starting day one, but he needs to be in that rotation freshman year, a la Ruben Bain. But when you get big dudes and they have the ability to be big and strong near to the line of scrimmage, even if they take a while to develop, like a John Feliciano did, he's still in the league. Think back to, oh my God, when was he in Miami? It was forever ago. And he's still in the NFL. That's what I'm talking about. And he's not even the caliber of athlete that we just got in Justin Scott. So now we can have, hopefully, developmental guys take a while, couple mango seasons before they hit the field, but also get these superstar recruits come in, plug and play early, and elevate the talent on this roster. And hey, shout out to Mario Cristobal. I wanted to see it. This is one step, but it's a huge step. Great job.
I'm looking at the individual player rankings according to 247 Sports. So for Miami, that's 5 in the top 69. That's 6 in the top 113. That's 7 in the top 156. Those are close to the kind of numbers you see at Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the thing about that is, are some of these other guys either going to get processed and replaced, or are we just going to simply add other dudes at that top level in the top 200-ish recruits? That's where things need to go. And then obviously we do have transfer portal, additions, subtractions, things like that. But yeah, when you have that kind of quality, like again, Miami was ranked 11th in this class already. It's going to go up, trust me, with getting a top 10 player. Justin Scott, Chi-Town Kane, hey, from your neck of the woods, St. Ignatius, exactly. So, hey, when when he has his home debut, we'll try to shout you out. But yeah, Chi-Town Kane, that is exactly what Justin Scott has pledged to become as of 17 minutes ago. A Chi-Town Kane coming down from the 312 or the 773, depending on what side of town you live on.
Okay. Hurricanes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Get locked in. This is a good show already, and we've got more to run down, kind of more so on the flip side of all of this in terms of player acquisition or player loss. It is transfer portal time. I don't know that this is a list to be concerned about, although I see some playmakers there.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody is going to lose players. Everybody has lost players, just the way it is. So we'll start with the most publicized, and that's the quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke. No shock. You've predicted it for weeks, and there it is.
Yeah, so I'll just go down the entire list because there's only 5 so far that have announced. So the ones that can announce, well, since the end of their regular season, are grad transfers, those who will have graduated by at the end of this semester and can move freely because they will be graduate transfers. So number 1, Tyler Van Dyke. We're going to go back and talk about him. Number 2 on the list and on the roster, but number 1 in my heart, Donald Chaney Jr. Also wide receiver Frank Ladson. Also tight end Dominic Mammarelli. And then linebacker Corey Flagg Jr. Those are the ones. Did I miss somebody?
Jafari Harvey.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And then Jafari Harvey, sorry, on defense. Also being a grad transfer who has announced. That is correct. So just really quickly, again, all were talented players. All were 4-star recruits in their respective years. Even Mammarelli, who, he was a tight end from Naples. He was mostly a blocking guy, never really developed, wasn't even on the roster this year, didn't participate. So he's kind of doing what Haley Cavender did, where like she and her twin sister retired from basketball, but then Haley, because Haley was the good one, Hannah was the other one. Hannah has retired. Haley is announced she's going to transfer to TCU basketball for next season. So Mammarelli kind of did the same thing where he's not playing this year or didn't play this year, but is going to transfer. Starting at the top, Tyler Van Dyke. Look, he was quarterback 1. He has talent. He has areas for growth, clearly, in reading defenses and being processing information. As many people have said it, and have seen it, when he knows where to go with the ball, he will get it and rip it. When he had the check with me system with Rhett Lashley, it was, okay, coach, where am I throwing the ball? Cool. Boom, bang, boom. So maybe he needs to get back to a check with me type system. But again, a 4-star recruit, started here, had probably 7,000 yards, 6,000 yards passing over the course of his career. I haven't looked it up, but let's look it up then. Unless Mark has it at the ready.
No, I was just going to guess. I like to guess these things.
Oh, let's go.
Well, if he started for 8 games in 21 at like 350 a game, that might be a little hot. 25, 20. He's probably at, he's probably at, I'm going to say 7,600 yards.
7,469.
Okay.
Yep, over 32 games. But yeah, 7,469. His rushing numbers are negligible, but yeah, about 150 off of your guess. So yeah, he was a player. He helped us win some games. Was also part of the problem for losing some games. Again, is a guy with a lot of talent, arm talent, but the inconsistency was the thing. I had said it. I know that when I first said it, Mark was kind of taken aback, but look, you don't have to go home, but the journey together, you got to get up out of here. That's just not, I'm sorry. we're going to have to go in a different direction. And I think that everybody knew that. He was asked before the Boston College game. He was like, "Oh yeah, so you're playing the bowl game? You playing next year?" And by a journalist. And Tyler was like, "Well, was it that?" He knew already that was going to be his last game as a Hurricane. And like I don't blame him for that. But yeah, yes, Mark.
You were high on TVD in 2021. Everybody was high on TVD in 2021. So
Absolutely.
If you had a brain and could watch football and calculate some stats, you were high on TVD in 2021. At what point did it turn for you?
When he hurt his shoulder last year. I forget which game it was. It was early, but he got sacked and got sacked on his throwing shoulder. I was like, that's your season. Like that might even be your career, because elbows and knees you can recover from, but the insertion points to like your torso, hips and shoulders, those are ones that end careers. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is a really inside baseball because it's a baseball guy, but Justin Thompson was a pitcher for the Tigers, had one of the best arms that God ever put on a human being, but he continued to have shoulder injuries, and his career went from this to nothing that quickly. I mean, he was a big Texan, 6'4", 230. I mean, he had one of the most golden arms I've ever seen, but shoulders are the thing that will ruin somebody. I mean, because of course, overhand throwing motion is unnatural for the human body to begin with. Now you have at that point with the AC joint injury or anything. That's where I thought, or I knew that it was bad when he had that injury. And I said at the time that it was malpractice to continue to play him through the season with that injury. And then from there, so that's where my view of him decreased to begin with. I will say when I was done with him here, it really started to fade Georgia Tech. Like that was really, really bad. But like when I was really, really done, I will have to say, yeah, NC State. NC State, 20-6, didn't do anything, looked like a deer in the headlights, had no idea. I mean, just completely nothingness. I mean, the Virginia game, not so much because remember I had that work event, so I didn't watch that game like live. I caught I caught the hour condensed, but it was really NC State. That's when I was really like, yeah, no, this is not tenable moving forward.
All right. On down the line of the transfers, because I would love to get the synopsis on each one of these players and your thoughts about what they contributed at Miami and going forward.
Absolutely. Next, Donald Chaney Jr., high school All-American from Belen Jesuit. His, a multifaceted running back, a guy who struggled with injuries throughout his career, flashed that elite talent that we saw from him in high school, saw from him at the U.S. Army All-American game, things like that, but it was never as consistent just because there was a rotation of running backs and he battled through injuries. Had his best year, I believe, this year, and is set up to go somewhere and be a major contributor to a running game and also a passing game, but really a running game elsewhere. But yeah, that's a guy who was a little bit more snake bitten by injuries because while Tyler had like one really, really bad injury to his throwing shoulder, and that's kind of what derailed. It was a knee here and an ankle here and a hamstring here, and it was just like it was just a lot of little things that kind of added up there. Frank Ladson, high school All-American from Homestead South Dade Senior High School, went to Clemson, contributed for a couple years, came here. They said that I got to go back and look at this to be sure, but yeah, he had 27 catches in 2020. I don't remember him having 27 catches last year, but apparently he did. Let me click on this and go down the game log. Oh, yeah. In the middle of last year, he had 6 against Middle Tennessee, 8 against North Carolina, 5 against Virginia Tech, and 3 against Duke. And then outside of those 4 games, he had 5 catches. So he had 22 catches in 4 games. Did Frank Ladson in 22. He played in all of the games this year. He just played on specials. He didn't really play on offense. So that participation chart or games chart that you're looking at on the screen is slightly incorrect because, again, he played on specials. But yeah, he had 27 catches, but again, 22 of those came in a 4-game span in 2022. And past that, the biggest thing that he did, the best thing that he did in his career at Miami was recovering that onside kick against Florida State to start the second half of this game, of this year's game. Like that was the high point. And even though he scored a touchdown at Virginia Tech in a win last year, correct, I would still say that would be his best contributing thing. So he's another guy who's going to transfer elsewhere looking for playing time. As I said before, Dominic Mammarelli, tight end, mainly a blocking guy, did not participate, was not on the roster with the team this year, and will transfer elsewhere. All these guys that I've mentioned so far, 4-star recruits in their respective years. So if you go back and look, like you'll see that these were guys with talent, but they didn't necessarily work out. Corey Flagg is the next one up, linebacker, who's on the screen. He, I have to give credit, man. This is a guy who played better this year than I think that we'd seen him play, maybe since 21. And he's not good against the pass, but he was incredible against the run. And when we needed to rotate guys in to fit gaps and stop run plays, Corey Flagg was there. And if I had to pick out a play, y'all already know the game-winning 4th down stop against Clemson in overtime, where they do, they're running a little read option or zone read. You figure, okay, if the other linebacker crashes, which he did, are you going to scrape over? Are you going to try to fit that A gap? And he scraped, and he was there. Trent Harris, do your job level there. And Cade Klubnik pulled it, and he looked up and saw that number 11 and said, oh, shit, and tried to get to the outside. And Corey Flagg made one of the defensive plays of the year. And a la a Robert Knowles from years past, that's a throwback. But I know that this is a guy who I and others derided for negative performance throughout the first part of his career, not doing what he needs to do, not being where he needs to be, being a minus athlete, so not being good against the pass or whatever. But when we shortened his list of responsibilities and said, do the few things that you do well, and we got KJ Cloyd, we got Kiko Mawigoa, we got Wesley Basaint, we even will rotate in some of the freshmen who to do the athletic linebacker stuff from sideline to sideline, but we need you to be here and stop the run. Corey Flagg did a darn good job, man. And just like I gave credit to Robert Knowles for improving through the course of his career, I'm going to right here give credit to Corey Flagg for improving as well. And I know he wants to go somewhere. He wants to start. He wants to be the guy, because Kiko Mawinoa was the guy at middle backer this year. Like, Flagg became a rotation guy, and a darn good rotation guy, but I always thought this is the kind of role he should have had. Really did a good job at that, but wants to have a bigger role. So, he's going to go somewhere else. I did Latson, I did Van Dyke, Chaney, Mammarelli, Flagg.
I'm going to do
Jafari.
my best to spell Jafar.
Jafari.
J-A-
J-H.
There he is.
F. There it is. Jafari. Yes, there it is. Jafari Harvey. Another 4-star, another guy who was a twitchy athlete coming out of high school and everything. And he was fine. He was okay, but clearly got recruited over and clearly got developed over. And as you look at the numbers, 16 tackles, 26, 31, 23, good tackle for loss numbers through the course of his career. Wasn't really the sack guy that we thought he could have been. Had 5.5 last year, which was, his career high. But yeah, he was just, he ended up being a really nice kind of 2A or 1B kind of player. Like, not necessarily a starter, but pretty good for a rotation backup guy. So, wanted it to really click for him, especially going into last year. But yeah, no, Miami has gotten, honestly bigger, faster, and stronger dudes at the DN position, and where he was a super uber athlete compared to his competition in high school, that uber athleticism never translated up to this level. So he was fine. He was okay. And I mean, I would have taken him back if he wanted to be here as a rotation guy. But also, like I said, with Flag, he's probably going to look to have a bigger role somewhere else. And I'm sure that he could find it at a mid-tier Power 5 or a group of 5 school. But we wish him well in that. And as we end here, we're circling back just so that you see Donald Chaney's statistical numbers, because, really strong, played in 11 games as a freshman and then played in 3 games in 21 and 22 combined before coming back and playing in 11 games this year. So, yeah, it's just a guy who just injury upon injury upon injury upon injury. But again, these are all guys who are going to be value adds, I believe, to the schools that they transfer to. Now, they might not transfer to a Miami caliber program and be a value add, but if they go, and I know that I'm going, because Miami is a top tier program. I know that our performance has not been there, but just bear with me, guys. But if they go to a mid to lower tier Power 5 or to, any group of 5 school, I think that all these guys can go places and play and be successful. Just look at the guys who've gone elsewhere. Look at the guys who went to Utah State to go play with Bonda out there, like a Gervin Hall, 52, I forget his name, Patrick something, who went out there. All the guys who were at SMU with Rhett Lashley, and I know that they're coming up to the ACC, but you know what I mean? I think all of these guys can find somewhere that they can be a value add to programs.
So I'm guessing, based on our previous conversations, that at one time you were pretty high on Harvey.
Yeah, correct? No, I was coming in. Absolutely. I was high on, look, again, all these guys were 4-star guys. Everyone except for Mammarelli was an All-American, right? So you figure that they're going to be a starting level player and then find their way up. For Harvey, I thought what he did as a junior in 22, I was expecting something like that, like 32 tackles and 5.5 sacks with 7.5 tackles for loss. I was expecting that maybe as a sophomore and then stepping up as a junior. That ended up being his 4th year, and then that was the ceiling for him, So I was, very high on all these guys, but as will happen, just didn't get all the way to the ceiling for the potential that I saw.
Patrick Joyner, I don't remember him.
That's the guy who transferred to Utah State that I was talking about. Yeah, that was years and years ago. Yeah. Well, not even years and years ago, because he was in the class before Harvey, I want to say.
He had he was a local 6 tackles at Miami in 2 seasons.
Right, yeah, he was a local kid who was a program player. You take a flyer to see if you can catch lightning in a bottle, and it didn't.
Now I'm going to guess also that the biggest loss right now is Donald Chaney.
Say what you will, and I know that I said that he had to leave. The biggest loss is Tyler Van Dyke. He was a starting quarterback. The other reasonable option snapped his arm trying to die for a 4th and forever at Florida State. And Jacurri Brown has committed to playing in the bowl game officially, reported by multiple people. That's David Lake at 247. That's both Barry Jackson and Susan Miller-Degnan of the Miami Herald. That's Adam Lichtenstein of the Sun Sentinel. All of these journalists have confirmed that he's going to play in the bowl game. But when you're going to your intended redshirt guy, 3rd string emergency dude, and begging him to be like, hey, we wanted to play you during the year, and you were kind of like, nah, but we need you now because we don't have another scholarship quarterback. Please, please, please say yes. And he's finally like, all right, fine. At this point right now, yes, Tyler is the biggest loss. But moving forward into next year, of those guys that I mentioned, I want to say Flag, but we have other guys who I think will hopefully be able to plug into that, who are going to be more experienced and more athletic. But he was just so solid against the run in key situations. I would say Flag right now would be the biggest loss for the roster for next year. But I do believe that loss can be mitigated.
Let's get to our super chat contributions. We appreciate these. We've got Leroy the Black Ninja Turtle. Yeah, finally a good DT.
Hey, man, that makes two. We have Artavius Jones from Bluntstown, Florida, who's like way up in the panhandle, but that's another guy, 6'3", 280, so he's a cheeseburger away from 300, who's a dancing bear in there very close to the ball. So, that gives us two in this class. We're going to need more, both from, high school recruiting and the portal, but another, we'll call it a good defensive tackle, HYFR. Hell yeah, fucking right. I'm with you. Let's go.
Falconer TRX, who has already sent in his customary super sticker, as well as this one. Thank you, Falconer. Huge flip. Some people may say the biggest flip.
The biggest by size that I've seen this year, and the biggest for Miami, because that's the first flip that we've gotten. So all of that, huge, the biggest. Yeah, I mean, there can be bigger. I already mentioned that we're chasing after Jeremiah Smith. Not that I'm expecting that to happen, but were that to happen, because I think Jeremiah Smith he's transformational and generational above any of the wide receivers I've seen from South Florida. Like, if you rank and list all the dudes who have gone elsewhere, like, I'm taking Jeremiah Smith over all of them. You're talking about Marcus Roseman. You're talking about Jerry Jeudy, old Grandpa Ridley, Grandpa Ridley's younger brother, Amari Cooper. Name them. List who's at Alabama right now, number 7, Jacurri Brooks. All these dudes who have gone elsewhere. At the top of that list, above all of them, I'm taking Jeremiah Smith. So I think that would be the biggest. But like, that's the regard that I hold him. He is capital letters different.
Light Skin Cage, thank you so much for this 20 spot here. We appreciate that. Great show as always. Solid top to bottom win against BC. In regard to the season, I feel like it's a decent success with caveats. Given the marginal on-field / record improvement, I think a big W in recruitment or in the transfer portal is a must for Mario Cristobal.
Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for the dub spot there. Good team win. This was a game, like I said, if Miami showed up, they should have won by double digits, ended up winning by 20. So, a really solid day's work at Boston College. Could have even been a bigger blowout, but, hey, we really, really dominated that game from top to bottom. I don't really even talk about it. We are one game away from Mark's dictated 3-game improvement or 3-game change number that we talk about every preseason and offseason, right? So we had 5 wins last year, win the bowl game, looking like it's going to be the Sun Bowl in El Paso. So I will El Paso on going to that. But you win that bowl game, you go from 5 wins to 8 wins in a year. That's good. But yes, there are caveats. We already should have had an 8th win because we pissed away the game against Georgia Tech with, legendary stupidity. Fine, cool. But there have been steps forward. If you've seen these charts that people have put up of the difference between 22 and 23 with the traditional stats, with the Pro Football Focus grades, with the S&P Plus rankings, invariably everything improved this year, pretty much across the board, right? Except for turnover margin, because Tyler was a walking turnover for a month and a half. But pretty much everything improved. Sorry. And that's a credit to everybody in the organization. And the thing that we need to remember is a small step is still a step. And development and growth is not always linear. Sometimes you got to take a step back. And maybe Georgia Tech was a step back. Maybe the North Carolina game was a step back. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of performance, obviously there were other games that had results that were not what you want. But performance-wise, you could see, okay, there were some, okay, Texas A&M, we balled out. We did this. They couldn't run the ball. And da-da-da. And then, okay, so it's a non-linear path towards success. But hopefully we have taken more steps forward than back this year. But to the other point here, yes, you need big wins in recruiting and in the transfer portal this year for Mario, but getting Justin Scott hopefully is the first of many that are coming in these next 3 weeks, at least in terms of for the high school recruiting, and then we're pushing further beyond those.
I'm going to give you my perception of El Paso, Texas, and then I want to get the reality from you because I've never been there, nowhere close to there. I guess Houston would be the closest I've ever been to El Paso, Texas. So I'm guessing because of where it's located that it can be incredibly hotter than hell there, I'm sure, during the middle of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the opposite end of the spectrum, unlike there in Miami where it stays warm all the time, is that it also gets cold there for various reasons. I don't know the topography and everything that contributes to that, but it looks like a picturesque place, like mountains.
Yeah.
There should also be things to do. There's 700,000 people there. I just looked up the population.
Yeah. I mean,
In my last portion of this, being a guy that's enjoyed bowl play and so forth, and I've watched the Sun Bowl since I was a little tyke, and the stadium looks kind of interesting, set in the crest of the mountains and all of that, and it looks like a glorified high school football stadium to a certain extent. It just looks like somewhere I wouldn't mind taking a bowl trip to someday.
I mean, look, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. I mean, like, it's close to Las Cruces, New Mexico. It is like the furthest west terminal point in Texas. It is,
Oh, it's way over there.
it's way over there. If you've been to Houston, I looked it up, you've been 750 miles away in the same state, brother. Like, it is a long, long ways. It is an 11-hour drive, 7 hours and 746 miles to get from Houston to El Paso. So, like, yeah, it's just south of Las Cruces. It's right in the, like, it's a border crossing town. You know, there is an Air Force base, I believe, out there. It is at elevation because there is a mountain range there and everything. And just, it's where culture goes to die. Like, no, most everybody who lives out there are the military people and whatnot. I mean, yeah, like, I will get all the enjoyment of it by watching the game on television and seeing the mountains in the background of the stadium. But yeah, going in person again to that location, that's not a thing that I want to do. That's not going to be on any list of trips that I'm going to take in this lifetime, God willing. But yeah, team can go have fun. I'm just not going to do it.
My knowledge of U.S. geography is actually pretty strong. But if you looked on a map, you would think, okay, well, I knew where it was. I was very close. But probably in actuality, I was probably about 300 miles away. I actually thought it was closer down to that tip that goes all the way into Mexico. I thought it was closer
Oh, you thought it
down.
was south? No,
Yeah, a little bit more that way.
And then new. And yet, so it is twice as far, over twice as far west of Houston as New Orleans is east, because New Orleans is about 350.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So you can drive forever and be in the same state of Texas.
Exactly. Once you start traveling west, so Texas and then out New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, those states, like I never realized, like I lived in Connecticut for 19 years because of where I worked. And, you know, Boston's 2 hours away, New York's 2 hours away. Even nobody thought about going to Washington, D.C. It was 5 hours away. It wasn't a big deal. I remember talking to somebody who lived they were from Albuquerque. And I would just look on a map and think, oh, well, you should probably shoot over to Vegas, right? And I'm like, do you go to Vegas a lot? And he's like, well, not very often. I'm like, isn't that a quick? And he's like, oh, it's like 13 hours away.
Yeah. It's a full state and a half. You got a Navajo reservation and a Halapui Indian reservation between there. A quick flight, but in Albuquerque, also weird town. Would go back though. Green chili over red all day. And that's the thing. They will ask you because the kind of chile peppers, that they grow. Sure. But you go in anywhere and like it's just a thing. So they'll let me get a burger. Cool, green or red. They're asking about chilies, so it's just like a thing there. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Falconer, appreciate you being here, man. Need players that are dogs like JF. Who am I missing? Who's JF? JF. and Gore and more.
I don't know what
JF.
JF is.
JF. Got to be a great player. Jim, F. Okay.
I don't know. When TVD was TVD, he was TVD. I mean, yeah, he was. For better or worse, a lot more worse this year than better. Really, I mean, look, I will say credit to him for, manning up and actually giving us a couple solid performances through the end of the year. And I think that was really crucial for him going into the portal as well, showing that what had been going wrong, he fixed it, maybe not all of the way, but like more than not. So you're getting more of that player that we saw against Boston College than the turnover machine from the middle of the season. But I think it was really, 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 really imperative, both for Miami on the field, but also for Tyler's future, that he showed the improved performance that he did in the last couple of games, even with a couple losses in there.
By the way, it's 63 degrees in El Paso currently, which it's not too bad.
Nah. Oh, and I'm wearing my Los Pollos Hermanos shirt. Shout out to Breaking Bad. Shout out to Albuquerque.
Breaking Bad. Yeah, my experience with Breaking Bad is it's like my son's favorite show of all time. And he was still living with me when he was like totally into it, and it had already been out and run its course, but he was watching it in the aftermath. And I did something that he just thought was fatally stupid to do, because he would watch it and he'd say, stay clear. You got to dive into this from episode 1. And I watched like the last 4 or 5 episodes with him.
I mean,
I have not seen the rest of the series, but I saw the last 4 or 5 episodes.
You can get it. Like, it's not rocket surgery or anything, so I'm sure you could follow along, but like, had you taken the journey, the emotional connection, you would have, like, all the backstory of like why this and how we got here and all the other things that built to that, like, you were missing. So, but I mean, like the last 4, Ozymandias. Oh, that was an episode. Yeah, I might have to run that back. Interesting.
Falconer, quote, a dancing bear close to the ball, end quote. Cam is a poet.
I stole that one from somebody, but I will take it.
And also Falconer showing up with crowdfund Cam's trip to El Paso.
I mean, if you want to crowdfund money for a trip and I can put it to my own uses wherever I would like to go, I'm sure that, and it's expensive to get there because it's in the middle of nowhere. So I can, crowdfund that, give me the money, $$ Cam Underwood on Cash App. So it's just my name. You know what my name is, guys. $ Cam Underwood. And then, if y'all want to do that, then sure, I will take your money and go on a trip. I am not. I refuse. No, I will not go back to El Paso, Texas.
Would you cover Miami football on a regular basis? Full-time? Even more full-time than you do right now?
Well, no, because I do it part-time. But, I mean, would I full-time? Sure, absolutely I would.
Yes, Travis and others, we have discussed the Justin Scott. Cam did the full rundown, so please, you can check it out at the start of the live stream.
Yep. And, I mean, hopefully this is the first of many. So, we got Xavier Mincy on the board from Daytona Mainland, defensive back, 4-star, 5-star All-American. Jeremiah Smith from Chaminade Madonna. We just offered Cedric Bailey, their quarterback, as well. And, I mean, he's like a 3-star borderline, guy. But there's plenty of guys out there, so we're going to see movement. And, we're going to have recruiting notebooks on early signing day come hell or high water. So, I'm going to have to carve out some time to make those happen. But I got you for the umpteenth year in a row. So just stick around Wednesday, December the 20th, all day. I will be, Uber eating some breakfast, getting up. I'm probably going to take this is my new work computer, but I'm probably going to take this out into my living room area and sit on the recliner and blog from this computer out in that other room. But either way, all day, December 20th, we will be here live blogging all the way through early signing day for the Hurricanes.
Have you taken the opportunity to look at any of the listings of the current transfer portal and anyone that you believe Miami should pursue?
I have, but before we get there, the rankings did just update as per Steve Wiltfong from 247. Miami jumps from number 11 to number 5.
Really?
Yeah. Justin Scott. I mean, you're talking a top 10, 12 player in the country.
But...
like, and the margins, honestly, not that big between a lot of schools. But yeah, from number 11 up to number 5. And if I click, yeah, so 278.70. So yeah, yep, that does track.
So Ohio State's probably dropped 5 spots.
No, just down to number 2 because their class is loaded. Still 4 5 stars and 14 4 stars. Like the player average did drop for OSU, but like that's a really incredible class still. So yeah. Anyways, the main thing in the portal, obviously, are quarterbacks. So, sorry, excuse me. If we go there, so you're looking at Will Howard from Kansas State. You're looking at Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. Will Rogers from Mississippi State. He has not entered yet because he is not a grad transfer, but Cam Ward from Wazoo is a guy that I would have interest in. Apart from the fact that he has a great first name, I think that he has incredible talent and could really be an upgrade. A guy who I wanted Miami to recruit as a high schooler who is going to have to go somewhere else if he wants to play, Malik Murphy from Texas. Come on down. Because look, if Quinn Ewers comes back, he's the man. If not, trust and believe. The keys are going to Arch. So if you want to play somewhere, and I think that having an improved athlete as opposed to Tyler Van Dyke or Emory Williams, who can move around a little bit more, and again, with an incredible offensive line. So it's not like we needed, because we needed De'Aaron King when we had him because the offensive line was always yelling, fire, watch out, look out blocks, right? Where it's just like, I get the ball, oh, shoot, let me go make something happen. We don't need that guy, but we can use his athleticism to our advantage. Yeah. So that's, I think, where things start. I'm really interested to see, because there are more grad transfer quarterbacks than pretty much other positions. So that if I go by, can I go by position? Quarterback, yeah. I mean, everybody, even though Riley Leonard is not in the portal, everybody's saying he's going to Notre Dame. So like, I just want to, and I saw somebody tweet it, I want to know if and when Notre Dame is going to get investigated for tampering, because you cannot have both Sam Hartman 1 year and then the next year Riley Leonard, with everybody in the industry, like in the recruiting industry outside and who work in college football inside, like coaches and staffers and things. You can't have everybody in multiple industries knowing something for certain, and before it happens, before the window for it to happen happens, and it not be tampering. I'm just saying you can't have, like, all of those things cannot exist in the same universe. All I'm saying. But, you know, would I take a Riley Leonard if he wanted to look at Miami? Yeah, I would. You know, so I really want to start there. There's other guys, other places I would look past that. Defensive tackle. Even if you drop down to a lower level for defensive tackle, like I see, like Thor Griffin. No, Thor Griffin from Harvard. There's Marley Cook from Middle Tennessee, 6'2", 300. Right? He's not a name that's going to like be a seismic moment. Getting Marley Cook from Middle Tennessee as a grad transfer defensive tackle is not getting Justin Scott to flip from Ohio State, right? But when you look at the play on the field, Thomas Gore from Georgia State, who played this year, Branson Dean, transferred down from Purdue, playing defensive tackle in that rotation. Now, again, I'm not saying that they were the second coming of Vince Wilfork. I'm not saying that they were, big Jerome Brown. I'm not saying that they were Russell Maryland, first overall draft pick. But anytime you looked out there, you saw 58 and 59, they made plays. They ate up blocks. They got penetration in the pass game. They stopped, gaps, and they made tackles in the run game. They were sufficient replacement level or higher defensive tackle guys in the second string rotation. If I can get that from a guy like a Marley Cook or similar, right, from a couple of those dudes, a la a Branson Dean, a la Thomas Gore, I'm with that. So that's really where the staff is going to have to look and go down the list to get pieces that fit what we're doing that work, as opposed to just collecting superstars in the portal. However, that being said, the other places, two places I think that we need top line starters for next season. Wide receiver, because Miami has whiffed on the elite wide receivers in the portal for years running. If I go back to 23 by position, hold on, I'm going to show you or tell you when I scroll here. Give me 1,000. Boom. A.D. Mitchell from Georgia, whiff. Tez Walker. I don't know that we kicked the tires on that, but no. Dominic Lovett, we kicked the tires on him. No. Jaheim Bell, he was a tight end, whatever. Keon Coleman, kicked the tires. No. J. Mike Sturdivant, who went to UCLA. I know that we tried to get him. No. All just going up and down the list of available wide receivers. Dante Thornton from Oregon. Thought, he was going to come down. Goes to Tennessee instead. Just there's so many guys who went places and made plays that we whiffed on in the receiver world. So we're going to have to get them, or just get Jeremiah Smith and somebody else in the recruiting class, and I'll be fine with it. But also safety. You're losing both Cam Kinchins and James Williams. I think that we have some good options. Jaden Harris, Mark Keith Williams, and things like that. Everybody else might be another year away, but I think that we do need like a real top line plug and play starter there. So those are my early thoughts on the portal, but we're really going to see it start popping on Monday when underclassmen or players who will not be grad transfers, even if there's their first transfer or whatever, but non-grad transfers can enter starting on Monday. That's really when we're going to start to see things pop and really be like, okay, let me look here and there and everywhere.
Absolutely, we will. There are projections out there. I forget the numbers, but just the largest portal class that we've seen. All right. So, Paulo, thank you so much for the contribution and the question. Cam answered that about the quarterback situation in the portal. We've got Falconer coming back with, clearly Miami has a recruiter. Do we have a playoff coach?
Yet to be seen, honestly. And I mean, I think that we still need to give another Mango season or two before we really get towards the full roster construction that we want to see to be able to make or to be that competitive kind of a team. Again, you see what the foundation was at Oregon, that Dan Lanning has continued to, take the baton and keep it going and even improve it. But it got back there with Cristobal because it had fallen off under Helfrich and Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart had to tick up a little bit from where Helfrich kind of had it at the bottom, but getting it back to Oregon, like Chip Kelly standard Oregon, that was really Mario. And so we're going to need time to get there because it just takes time. But do we have a playoff coach? Honestly, the thing that will propel Cristobal and the Canes to the playoff will be incredible rosters. I think that you're going to need to have incredible players to kind of mitigate some of his coaching deficiencies. So I think if the first thing goes well, then I think that the second thing can happen, if that makes sense.
He's got to have a legit, top 10 team getting him to the playoff rather than coaching up trying to think of a example, Mark D'Antonio taking Michigan State to the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I agree. But I think I think also if you solve the quarterback issue, I think that covers a lot, because this team really, we saw this year, it's like a quarterback away from competing for an ACC championship. And if you're able to do that, who knows? I didn't say an undefeated season. Those come around rarely. I didn't say, rivaling the 2001 Hurricanes, best team of all time. Didn't say that. But if you have really good top tier quarterback play, which Miami has not had, but you solve the quarterback issue with what we've seen from this team. Yeah. And also if Miami can figure out the North Carolina thing, because buddy, come on. 5 in a row, 7 out of 9, have some pride. Jesus, man.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they get hyped every year, but then they go out and lose to NC State and Georgia Tech and whoever else they lost to this year.
And I can't even say, I was going to say, you know what? They always start 5-1, 6-0, and then fall off. So why don't you put the Carolina game at the end of the year? Oh, wait, that game that they ran for 9 million yards was in the middle of November that year. Damn it. So even what I'm looking at as maybe a scheduling thing to help me, put the Miami Carolina game in November when Carolina falls off. They don't even fall off when they do, or it's the 1 year that they make it to the ACC championship game. They don't fall off, and then they run for 1 billion yards at Hard Rock Stadium. It's just I honestly want to go fight them. I think that Miami and Carolina need to have a Miami and Florida Bourbon Street brawl before the game or something, and have their players show up with black eyes like Alex Brown because you lost the fight in the street and then you got lost the fight on the field. I think that we need to do it because they keep punking us on the field all the time. So we need to take it to the streets, see these hands, right? And then maybe that'll be a thing that gets us forward for a win against Carolina. But we gotta do something. Golly.
Well, you may be seeing Max Johnson at quarterback this next season.
Oh, I would love that. I don't think he's very good.
Yeah.
At all.
I think he's okay.
He's fine, but he's a statue, and we got the kind of defensive line and pass rush that we got, and Lord willing that we keep Lance Guidry and he doesn't go back to his Louisiana roots and go back or go to LSU or anything, and we keep bringing those triple A gap pressures and things like that get home like they did all season. Yeah, I'm with it. Because Max Johnson, he's not evading anybody. He's a statue.
He's a tough statue, but he's a statue.
He's a tough statue. Yeah, I'm not saying he's soft, but I like my chances with one of my guys coming through, a Ruben Bain, a Kiko Mawanoa. I know that Cam and James fought over that triple A gap pressure early in the year, and the first time that Cam got to take it because they didn't rotate. Later in the season, James got one of those same things where they actually had motion and it switched, and he was the one who was the third guy through on a quarterback. He got a big hit towards the end of the season. Might have been the Louisville game. So he finally was able to fire off on that. So, hey, good on him. But, yeah, I like my chances with one of those dudes, with a free run at Max Johnson. Yeah. It
just surprised me when I saw North Carolina Max Johnson because I think he's better than you do, but they would definitely be settling. But that's what
I agree.
Compared to what they've had the last 2 years, they'd be settling a lot. And then Falconer TRX, we appreciate you encouraging everyone to get us past the 100 like mark, which we have hit. And also, great receivers require a great quarterback.
Well, yeah, they do. So let's go get one. And also, the better talent that you have, it requires harder work. whether that's in my choir when I talk choir, whether that's, at your job, whether that's on this football team in this program. Like, you have to work. Your talent alone is not enough. That is God given. You have to work to develop and refine demonstrable skill. That is what is needed. And if you have a good coordinator, you put people in advantageous situations. So maybe you can lower the level of required quarterback play, and then the extra would be bonus. That would be lovely. That would be type lovely, because you can have all kinds of quarterback. Like, if I were to look it up, and I'm going to do this really quickly because I know that we're going to get out of here. But if I look at individual passing yards, there were 28 players in the country who threw for 3,000 yards. There were 31 who threw for 2,900 yards, and 34 who threw for 2,800 yards. That being said, there are plenty of dudes that can throw the ball around and get you yardage. And if you have a decent coordinator who can, dial it up, and then if you have good players, run after catch, and there a lot of that goes in there. But like, it's not crazy to be like, oh yeah, we need a guy to throw for 2,800. If you drop it to 2,700, then you're talking about 39. Well, that includes Tyler Van Dyke, because he had 2,703. So he's the last guy to make the cut. But that's 38 players, 39 players who threw for 2,700 yards. Come on, man. Like, you can win with that, but and especially because he missed a game. But hey, well, 2 games really, because he got benched. But whatever.
Falconer, Cam is not going to get your comment here. Cam, should we hate NCAA officials or Ohio State? Let me explain. I posted a video this week because I was rather annoyed, because I have joined a number of Facebook groups from my business account on Facebook, Voice of College Football, but I mistakenly entered one group as on my personal account years ago. So I had no idea that I was part of this group. Anyway, I pop open my Facebook and I see someone post about how much they hate. This is on the Miami, some kind of Miami Facebook page, about how much they hate Ohio State and it's karma. They lost to Michigan, because of what they did to us, however many years ago, 22 years ago. So I started looking through the comments. There's like 300 comments, and everybody's talking in the Miami post about how much they hate Ohio State and they cheated us and everything else. And so I just couldn't take it. I posted a video, basically, what are you people thinking? I understand your emotions. I understand your hatred. I understand your hatred. You're from Michigan. So that comes from a completely different place.
Exactly.
But the point is, I understand some people, it's difficult to separate their emotion from their logic. But I am appeasing, or I am appealing to people's logic as Miami fans to say. And I opened the video very tongue-in-cheek to say, thank you so much that on our channel we have smart, logical Miami fans.
Indeed.
Because I understand the hate for what happened in that game. But why it's directed at Ohio State, this is not a pickup basketball game. This is not a backyard football game where you call your own fouls or your own pass interference calls. They had nothing to... It's inconsequential of who Miami was playing that night. That's completely inconsequential. Be mad at the official. Don't be mad at the other team. They had nothing to do with it. Right? They had nothing to do with it.
That last part, like, it didn't matter, because like, it matters because that was the team on the other side of the football. So that's like who, like, the anger is directed at. So like that's the part in which it matters, because had it been Notre Dame, well, we already have a history with Notre Dame. If it was
Kansas State, somebody's just...
Well, no, like a good team from somewhere else. If it had been UCLA, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the anger would be directed there. For me, it's a layer on top because I'm a native Michigander. I got plenty of family who went to Michigan. I've been to the big house more than a little bit. Like I told you, I played 3-on-3 basketball tournaments in the parking lot and then inside Chrysler Arena, which is right there next door. I went to concerts across the street diagonal at Ann Arbor Pioneer, which were the Cranberries or whatever. Some of those Michigan bands are started literally, which is on the same intersection as the big house, diagonal across. Like it's different for me. And I keep trying to tell people this. I keep talking when I talk to Fred. My friend used to have a podcast with Fred Purdue, look up his new show or whatever. But I'll talk. He was like, really? Like, yo, I'm like, weird. Okay. I'm like, yo, it's deeper than rap, bro. Like the state of Michigan and the state of Ohio decided, hey, we both want the Toledo corridor. So we're going to fight a war for this territory. Like, that's what we're talking. Like, it's not the same. So for me, that's where I come from. And then, like, I went to Miami, and then that was the team that we played, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But, like, in general, if people just don't like, the OSU, then they just don't like them. But, I mean, for me, should we hate either or? I mean, personally, I'm fine with hating both because, like, hey, like I said in 2015, and I wrote it when I wrote that we should look at Lane Kiffin as Miami's next head coach back then. # let's be jerks. Because if you want to hate, then hate on me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fine with being the villain. So, like, hey, if we want to hate on somebody else, then they're the villain. That is what it is. But if I had to choose, I mean, like, again, I'm a native Michigander. You know who I'm choosing.
But you do get my point.
I do.
Those players, those coaches, they had nothing to do with the call. All right. And then we got another super chat here from Leroy. Nice. We appreciate you being here. If quarterback Jacurri Brown play like Jalen Milroe from Bama, will we be good?
I mean, they're very different kind of players. Because Milroe is more sudden and fast. He's more sudden and quick, gets to his top speed faster than does Jacurri Brown. Jacurri, again, is a long strider. It kind of takes time to build up that speed. But even, with whatever the tracking system is, Jacurri Brown was one of 3 players in the program, I think, who had 22 or 23 miles per hour in sprints during offseason. Like, he is a incredible athlete. But they're very different, like it's just they're like Jacurri Brown is the bigger dude. So he's going to run more of the Cam Newton style QB power inverted veer type offense as opposed to Jalen Milroe, who could run more zone read, be quick with it, in the QB run game, and then also just quicker to get out of the pocket and run if he wanted. Whereas Jacurri, I think, would be more escape to throw because, like, I know that Jalen Milroe escapes to throw. I know he does that, but I think that he runs more than Jacurri would because he's quick enough to get to a reasonable speed quicker than Jacurri, if that makes sense. And Jacurri has a bigger arm. Like, Jacurri can fling that bit. Like, I mean, he will throw lasers all over the place. Now, the thing about it is, he might not intend for them to all go over the place, but they go all over the place. But that's what hopefully he's been working on during this season. I was watching him during warmups at the Louisville game on Senior Day. I would like to see it in games, and because even in warmups on air, it wasn't as it wasn't as pinpoint as I wanted it to be. When I was like straddling the fence of like blogging and beat writing, like when I had enough time and I was down there all the time. This is back years ago now. This is Brad Kaya time. This is like Matt Porter at the Palm Beach Post time. And I was actually talking to him on the sideline during the first practice of the year. And Brad Kaya made 3 throws on air that all conversations around, whether it was staffers, journalists, bloggers, anybody around who's on the field that day, he made these throws. It was like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, it was just gorgeous, right? To the point where literally everybody stopped to watch this incredible pass and then went back to what we were doing. I know it was on air. I know that, whatever, he's all-time leading passer and he didn't make it in the NFL, but like when he threw the ball, you knew it looked different. Because when the backup stepped up, I don't get, and I get that from Tyler every now and then. I've never gotten that from Jacurri Brown, where it's just like, I'm watching warm-ups and he throws the ball and, oh my God, wow, really? Like, I've never seen that from him. But hopefully that's in his developmental path, and we'll see. But if Leroy, you mean, if Jacurri doesn't turn the ball over too much, gets the ball to his playmakers, steps out of a couple sacks to extend plays and then makes a play with either his arm or his legs and things like that, a la Jalen Milroe, I think that, yeah, Miami would definitely be in a good spot. I just need to see him be able to do that. And even if he were to start and play within his ability set or his skill set and like play style, it would look different, but it could be just as effective.
And Falconer closes with, everyone hates Miami, so Miami hates everyone.
Honestly, not really. I mean, almost. Because there's a wide swath of college football I just don't give a damn about. You know what I mean? Like, do we hate who we hate? Absolutely. Florida State, OSU. Again, I understand. Well, because of 2002, and everything. And then some people said that the hit against Willis McGahee was dirty. I didn't necessarily agree with that, but if that's part of your, process for hating them, okay, cool. But like, yeah, we hate who we hate. And then otherwise, it's just like, it's funny because then when you have like a game against Louisville and whatever, and they're just chirping up and everything. And it's just like, and like I said, I don't know why that's like one of the few schools fan bases that literally gets under my skin. But it's just like, I don't know why it is, but it is. But it's just like, yeah, because y'all can't, like, the line does not concern itself with the opinions of sheep. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think about Louisville football. I don't think about Kentucky football. I don't think about so many of these teams. But it's like, oh, yeah, we're playing Miami. We hate them and da-da-da-da. All right, bro. I was just living my orange and green life, throwing this you up and going to class or whatever. Hate me if you want to, but, like, I haven't even considered your existence or anything like that. But, yeah, we hate who we hate. I don't necessarily know that we hate everybody. But if we want to hate everybody, I'm with it because they hate us. So, we all we need, we all we got. Let's go Canes.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. We do this each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Appreciate you being here. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate the contributions tonight. Cam, what's going on at State of the U?
Mike Schiffman is covering basketball, which unfortunately had their first loss of the year yesterday at Kentucky, a 27-point or 23-point blowout. It was pretty bad, but hopefully that'll be the worst game of the year. So we will move forward. I mean, for a top 10 program, men's basketball, women's basketball is at Mississippi State tonight. Actually, right now, I do not know what that score is. But yeah, so we have some things on that. We will be closing out the season, and I am taking a step back. I will have something up on Sunday for the announcement of the bowl game. I hope and pray that it's not the Sun Bowl, but if it is, then fine. But also, like I said, transitioning my attention to rounding out these recruiting notebooks for early signing day, including the new one on my list, 5-star defensive tackle Justin Scott. And we will have all those up for you 3 weeks from today on early signing day. I will be blogging all the way through that, covering all of those things as I always have, because that is my main passion in the world of college football. Talent acquisition, roster building, recruiting. That's what got me here. That's what got you guys here. And we'll have all of that. And I mean, Justin Tavio has a self-scout of the season. So going back and reviewing how Miami performed versus what he self-scouted, I believe that's going up tomorrow morning and more. So always come be a fan with us over at stateoftheu.com.
Primetime Rambo, thank you for the contribution. Believes that a certain quarterback that everyone thought was going to UGA is going to the U.
That everyone thought Raiola, that thought was going to UGA, that would be who that is, the Raiola kid. I will shut my mouth if Shannon Dawson and Mario Cristobal make that happen. But in terms of transfers, like if, Brock Vandegrift, former 5-star All-American, everybody's favorite, incredible player as a recruit, quarterback from Georgia, decides to hop into the portal, come on down south, man. Like, that's something I'll look at, but we shall see. But, people will be saying a lot of things. People will be hearing a lot of things through now and the end of the season. So take everything with a grain of salt. That's why, or I think that's just a prudent way to be. But regardless of if that happens or not, what will happen is that Mark and I will be here next week, Wednesday, 7 o'clock. So be sure that you guys dial in, bring all your questions, comments, and topics, and we will talk about Miami Hurricanes football and recruiting and all that kind of stuff next week. This same bat channel, same bat time.